All right, let's get right into it. There's a huge, quiet battle happening right now. And it's not about what you think. It's not about armies or land. It's about something way more fundamental, the future of money itself. We are living through a massive shift in how governments think about finance, and it's making us question literally everything we thought we knew about debt, deficits, and what actually gives our money its value.
And this quote from Michael Howe, he's a liquidity expert, it just gets to the absolute heart of the problem. For decades, we kind of relied on independent central banks to steer the economy. Well, that's changing. The state is stepping back in, big time, with massive spending. And if you look at history, that move usually ends one way, and it's not pretty. It ends in inflation.
And to give you a sense of the scale here, the U.S. fiscal deficit is currently running at 6 to 7% of its entire GDP. Now, for years, the gold standard for being responsible, especially over in Europe, was a 3% deficit. We have blown way past that. The old rule books are basically being thrown out the window.
So this brings us to a phrase that you're going to hear more and more from economists: fiscal dominance. What does that mean? Well, it's the idea that the government's need to spend and borrow gets so huge that it starts calling the shots for the central bank. You know, that wall that's supposed to exist between the Treasury that spends the money and the central bank that's supposed to keep inflation in check? Yeah, that wall is starting to look pretty crumbly.
I mean, just take a look at this. This is what the old world looked like. For decades, the EU tried to keep everyone in line with these incredibly complicated systems, like this matrix of requirements. Just try to make sense of it. You've got different rules for bad times and good times. It is a dizzying web of regulations designed to force discipline. But in a world dealing with pandemics and massive energy shocks, a lot of people are saying this is completely obsolete.
But here's the counter-argument, the thing that really started to change the conversation, made popular by economists like Olivier Blanchard. This chart shows you the whole idea. The red line, that's economic growth. And the blue line, that's the interest rate the government has to pay on its debt. You can see that for long periods of time, the red line is above the blue one. So the thinking goes, if your economy is growing faster than the interest on your debt, is that debt really the catastrophe those old rules made it out to be?
And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If those old ways of doing things are cracking under all this pressure, what's going to fill the vacuum? What new ideas, what new technologies are rushing in? Because this is where the real fight for the future of money kicks off.
Which leads us straight to one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, controversial ideas out there: modern monetary theory, or MMT. This is something that went from the fringes of economic blogs right into the halls of government because it offers a totally different lens for looking at government spending.
So the core idea of MMT is actually pretty simple. It argues that a government that controls its own currency, think the US with the dollar or the UK with the pound, can never really go broke. It's not like a household. It can't run out of money because it can literally always create more. So, according to MMT, the real limit on spending isn't some number in a government bank account. It's inflation. Can the real economy handle the new money without prices going haywire?
And this right here shows you just how much of a total paradigm shift we're talking about. The conventional view, the one we all grew up with, says the government has to tax or borrow money first and then it can spend. But MMT flips that script completely. It says government spending creates the money. It comes first. And taxes, their job isn't to raise money. Their main job is to take money out of the system, to cool things down and stop inflation. So the goal isn't to balance the budget, it's to balance the entire economy.
Now, as you can imagine, this idea sets off some major alarm bells. The number one fear, summed up perfectly here by Professor Youngberg, is that if you give politicians what is essentially a magic money tree, it's a recipe for absolute disaster. The critics say the temptation will always be to spend more and tax less, sending you into an inflationary spiral. You know, the kind we've seen in places from the Weimar Republic to modern-day Zimbabwe.
Okay, so at the exact same time this huge theoretical debate is raging, a technological revolution is also forcing us to make a choice about money's future. And just like with government spending, we're seeing this massive fork in the road appear, a split between public and private control.
And what's really fascinating is you can see a clear geopolitical split. You've got the European Union, which is all in on a state-controlled central bank digital currency, a digital euro. The goal there is for the government to stay in the driver's seat. But then you look at the US, and it's leaning a different way, towards regulating privately issued stablecoins. These are digital tokens backed by real assets, like the dollar. For America, the goal seems less about direct state control and more about making sure the dollar stays king in this new digital world. But this whole digital race is an absolute minefield. I mean, what happens if these stablecoins aren't actually 100% backed by real money? You could see a total collapse, a digital age bank run. You could end up with a chaotic mess of competing currencies that just destabilizes everything. And maybe the biggest risk of all, you could see a giant transfer of power, where huge tech companies, not central banks, are the ones controlling our money. Think about the privacy implications of that.
So why does any of this matter to you and me? It all sounds pretty abstract, right? Fiscal dominance, MMTs, CBDCs. Well, here's why it matters. These two massive forces, new ideas about government spending and new digital technologies, are crashing into each other, and they're creating this high-stakes showdown for the soul of money.
This table really just boils it all down to the central conflict. You've got path number one, driven by ideas like MMT. Its main tool is government spending, but its core risk is absolutely terrifying: hyperinflation. Then you have path number two, the digital currency route. Its tools are technology and regulation, but its risk is just as scary: total financial instability and a corporate takeover of money. There is no easy, safe answer here.
At the end of the day, this is not just about economics. This is a raw battle for power. The theories that say, spend whatever you need, and the technologies that could beam that money directly into people's accounts are becoming tangled together. And the outcome of this battle is going to decide who's really in charge of the global economy, and what the relationship between you, the state, and giant corporations is going to look like for decades to come.
Which leaves us with the one final question. As the old system crumbles, who is going to write the new rules? Is it going to be the governments we elect? Will we go back to the era of independent central banks? Or are we about to witness a historic handover of one of the most powerful tools on Earth to private companies? The future of money is being decided as we speak.